Hey everyone, today we're tackling errors in Express.js. We will handle every single one of our errors that may occur in Express.js and making sure your app stays cool even when things go wrong. Without further ado, let's get started. I'm here in my computer screen and I'm just gonna make a quick Express project. I'm just gonna do npm init -y first. I do this in every single one of my episodes because I hope this command or these commands actually stick to your brain, or you just remember these just from that, right? And I also do npm I express, just like that. This will basically import or download Express modules in our project, and also do npm install nodemon. This will install nodemon, which is basically a better version of server start. Instead of doing node server.js, you do nodemon server.js. I have already taught this in previous episodes, so I'm not gonna go too deep in this video. So here I'm just gonna do server.js, make our server.js file, and also do make our boilerplate, cut one of these because I don't think we need post. So here what I'm going to do is actually start the server. I forgot to start the server actually. So I'm just going to do npm, or not npm, do nodemon server.js. If I do that, this will basically start the server at localhost 3000, open the localhost 3000 port, and here this will basically say hello world. Nothing fancy, it's just the normal code because it just says hello world. Now here, I want to add few things to start with errors, right? I'm going to add another route here saying about. This will basically say hello about, right? This is another route in our backend. This will basically say hello about. Now, if I go to that, right, refresh just in case, also do about, this will say hello about. Nothing new. However, what if I am a user and I accidentally misspelled my route or misspelled my URL? I basically typed double T. I'm a user, I can make that mistake, right? If I do that, this says cannot get /about. Now, as a developer, you might know that this says there's no route that is about with double T. Now, as a user, he might not be a developer, or you cannot expect the user to actually know this. That's why error handling is so much important. Because as a user, you want the best user experience that a website can give. So here, how to handle this? There are a couple different ways, right? The first way I can do is basically make a middleware at the end. So if none of the routes actually work, I can basically safely handle that using the use method. This will basically create a middleware and I just say request, response, and next. The syntax to make route, I don't have to teach you anymore, I hope. If you don't know how to make routes, make sure to check our previous episodes of middleware or routes, right? I'm going to make a quick middleware saying if none of the routes work, I'm just going to do response, send the response for status 404. That means the page is not found, right? And here I can just do send whatever I want to send. In this case, let's say I want to send a string saying, oops, oops, page not found. Oops, page not found. Maybe check your spelling. I can do that, right? Now, if I open the thing one more time, if I refresh this, this will say, oops, page not found, maybe check your spelling. Now, this is one way of doing it, right? Now, there are also other different ways to basically make it more interactive or more presentable. Now, to do that, I'm going to show you a quick example. Let's say I go to youtube.com and basically type whatever route, right? Now, this route does not exist in youtube.com. Now, so if I go to that, now this will basically return a page that is basically built for this specific error. This says, this page isn't available. Sorry for that. Try searching for something else, right? This is one of the things you can basically handle. Same for google.com. If I do Google and type something, it will basically say 404, that's an error. The requested URL, this, was not found on this server. Every single one of the websites have these kind of pages. Some might not, some actually do. Now to basically solve that and present this kind of error handling, what you can do is, as we studied in last video, we can basically make a views folder, right? And here I can basically make a index.html and basically paste our code. Now this is the code I'd basically have if I go to go live here. If I wanted to show you guys this thing, let's say this is our 404 page. If a user goes to a URL that does not exist, I want him to land on this page. So we have this HTML, so this is getting served by a different live server. We don't want that. We basically want to control it using Express. Now to do that, I'm gonna close this. To do that, what I'm gonna do is basically keep this into the views folder, right? I can basically make another middleware or basically just pass it into here. What I can do is, instead of using this send function, I can basically use the send file function. This basically sends a file as a response. So I basically have to give the directory. Now to do that, what I can do is basically use dir name. Dir name basically returns your current project folder directory. And we have to add the views folder. Since this basically returns the root project directory, we have to add the views. What I can do is basically do plus, add a string here saying views slash index.html. Now in this case, it doesn't have to be index.html. You can basically name it whatever you want. Now, if I go here, if I whip out our error file, right? If I do this, makes sense, right? I have zoomed it a lot, but yeah, this is how you will handle these kind of things, right? Now, next thing I need to teach you guys is the list of error codes. So these are some of the error codes that you can basically use, right? So error 400 is a bad request. 401 is unauthorized. That means there is some kind of authorization required to actually hit the API, whether it be cookies or tokens. 403 is forbidden. That means you don't have the permission. 404 not found is one of the methods that I showed you. That means the URL is unavailable. And 500 means internal server error. So there is some kind of error in server side, right? 502 is bad gateway, and 503 is service unavailable. Now what you can do here is basically see all of these error codes and basically paste it here. So let's say I want to build one for this. I can just copy this and paste it here, pass the status 500 as the error code, and basically display whatever I want. So for example, I can just do send and send something. So I can just do, this is 500 error code. There is some server issue. So I can just do that, right? Now this is very inefficient because you have to keep making different middlewares. So how many will you make, right? If there was a way where you can basically handle all of the errors by one middleware, that would be great, right? So that is how we will basically do it, right? What I'm going to do is basically make a global error handler. So I can just do global error handler. So whatever error that I get, or whatever error that might occur, this will basically trigger this middleware. Now for that, I'm just going to use app.use and pass our things, do request, response, and next. But I'm also going to pass another parameter here, that is error. Now this is a separate parameter. The value will be basically sending it from another middleware using next, right? So let's say I want to send some sort of error. We can basically do next here and basically send the error in case there is some kind of error, right? So here what I'm going to do is do that and make our route again. And here I'm basically going to log the error first. I can basically do whatever you want. Now here what I can do is basically do error.stack. This will basically give me a detailed report on what actually is the error. to basically, debug, right? Another thing I can do is basically do response.status. Now I have already logged the error. Now I also have to send appropriate response. Now to do that, I can just do response.send error status. This will basically send the status, and this will basically send, I can just do whatever thing. In this case, I'm just gonna send oops, error occurred, right? I can just do that. Now, the actual thing about this error is I can basically check what kind of error this is. Since we are basically passing a error object, we can check if error.status is a 404. If that is, we can basically send the error status, right? I can basically cut this and paste it here. So in case of 404 error, this will basically send this response, right? I can basically just copy this a bunch of times, or you can also use switch case statement. You can do whatever you want. I'm also going to add another else if statement with same block. I also need to pass condition here. And let's say the second one is 500, right? And I'm just going to copy paste that here. And this basically said, send this, and let's say this says 404, and this says 500, right? In case of these errors, what I can do is basically use them. Now, how do we actually use them then? So I will basically make a actual scenario here. So inside another route, I'm going to make another route here, somewhere around here. Instead of doing this, I'm going to make a body. So let's suppose that some kind of data was supposed to come from the front end, and that end up being null, right? So data didn't receive, or we didn't receive the data. In that case, what I can do, if data is null, that means data does not exist, we can basically write a logic. So remember this, that data that we were supposed to get was null. That means there was no data sent from the front end, right? So if the data is null, I can basically do const error. Since we have to pass this as a parameter into next, right? We also have to store this into variable. Now here I can just do new error, make a new object here, and let's say that says post not found, right? Or I can just do data not found, right? And here I can basically set the error status to be, let's say, 404, since this is not found, right? And I can basically pass this into that. I can basically do next and pass in the actual error variable. Now, next thing what I need to do is do a few stuff. That is, this has the same routes. I need to change that. Let's say this is data. Let's say I'm just going to put a data route, and also have to pass in next, since we have used next, but it is not defined here. So I also have to define that, and I think we should be done. So I'm gonna whip out our server, web server here, and here this should work fine. I'm gonna change that to data, and this says, oops, error occurred, 404, right? So this will basically send this error response. Now, what if I want to send a different error response? I can change that here. So we have cached 500, so I'm just gonna pass 500 here. And if I refresh this page now, this will basically say error occurred 500. Now let's say the data that we sent is not null, so I'm going to give some value. So let's say there is some value. In this case, this will basically, let's say, give that. I'm also going to put the data. This will also print the data here. So I'm just going to do that and refresh. There is some data. I did some syntax error here. There we go. There we go. This will basically print that as well, right? I'm going to do that again. And there we go. There's also an official documentation from Express regarding error handling. So if you want to check that out, I'm also going to leave the documentation link down in the description box below. And yeah, till then, I'll see you guys in another video. Bye bye.